For the first time in 2 years, the town have won successive away games as we came away from the MKM Stadium with a 1-0 win over Hull City on Saturday afternoon. Alongside me to look back on what could be a big day down towards the bottom of the championship table is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, they're like London buses, these away wins.
What an absolutely lovely weekend.
It really was, yeah, and we'll reflect right on that straight after this intro.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to the latest episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're looking back at Hull City 0, Luton Town 1. Huge result for the town, and I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe alongside me to do all of that. Before we cover the game though, I was looking through the comments of the preview to get all the leaderboard sorted and everything else, Jimbo. Guys, we know this season has been bad, right? We can win the last 7, we can draw the last 7, we can lose the last 7, and any combination in between. And this season has underachieved on expectations given to us by senior club officials at the start of it and by the expectations of any side that have dropped out of the Premier League. We know that. There is a time for inquest in all of this, and we will cover all of that when that time comes. But that time it will come when we know for sure what is happening this season. Right now, we have got every chance of getting out of this relegation mire, and we are going to reflect on that in podcasts with an optimistic approach that we can still do that, whilst at the same time acknowledging everything that's gone before has gone before, but we can't do anything about it. We can only look to the future and hope that we can shape it a little bit by being supportive where we can and doing our little bit. So please stop reminding us that we're getting things out of context and everything else. We're not. We are simply looking forward rather than dwelling on the past.
Oh, here. I mean, I've seen some of those comments on social media as well. Like I put out a thing just about the game, and it's been a couple of years of disappointment, really. So I understand where it's coming from. Listen, I come from a long line of pessimists, and I'm a recovering curmudgeon. But sometimes, just sometimes, you've got to celebrate what's in front of you, and it doesn't matter how it came about, own goal and all that. Won a game of football, and suddenly there's a chink of light, and we should reflect on that because it was wonderful. The result was wonderful. It doesn't matter how they come about at the minute. The result was wonderful, and the context of the weekend and the results elsewhere largely gave us some cause for optimism. It's still cautious optimism. It still is. But listen, we've won a game of football. We've won a game of football and an away game of football.
And not just one game of football. That's now 3 in the last 5 that we've won. We'll cover all of this shortly. So, yeah, we went into that international break off the back of 2 wins, a draw and a defeat in 4 games. That was progress, right? Was it progress as quickly as we would want it? No, and we reflected on that. But ultimately, progress is progress. And we've no problem with you guys if you want to just dwell on the past. That's your prerogative. That's absolutely fine. But on this podcast, whilst we're still in the hunt of getting out of this, we're going to look at ways that we can get out of this. So rant over, Jimbo, and let's focus on the weekend. I mean, there is something about Hull City that really agrees with Luton, isn't there? Because seemingly every time we go there, regardless of the situation, whether we're at the bottom of the table, top of the table, or in the middle of it, we just come away with a win. That's 4 on the trot now. Was it fantastic yesterday? No. But tell you what, there was an awful lot of not fantastic 1-0 wins when we got promoted out of this division that no one seems to remember because we got promoted out of this division. Roughly the same time 2 years ago, we went to Sheffield United won in exactly the same fashion, albeit we scored the goal rather than them. But we had one chance, we scored it, and we defended like Trojans, and we held on to a 1-0 win, and everyone was right behind that. Who gives a shit who scores the goal, really? Of course, we'd love Elijah to score. We'd love Carlton to score. We'd love everyone to score. If they want to do it for us, happy days.
Well, exactly. It doesn't matter. The style doesn't matter. The goal scorers don't matter. The only thing that matters is a result. And you won a game of football. And in isolation, let's be happy about winning a game of football, because it sticks us right back in the picture for getting out of this. With 7 games to go, effectively 3 points from safety, two to level up. And it's doable. And there's teams, we're still playing Derby and Stoke. Listen, we've won 2 games of away football on the spin for the first time in a fraction over 2 years. That monkey's off the back now. And it doesn't matter how it happens. We always said, like, however, we're talking about Elijah all the time. He needs one to go in off his arse and maybe he'll start scoring. Well, we had a goal going off somebody's face and we've won an away game of football. So, you know, it is, I've had an absolutely wonderful weekend. I mean, that happened. The sun is shining. It's lighter. Great Mother's Day. Love to all the mothers out there. Everything about the weekend, absolutely fantastic. So I'm buzzing.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, crikey, if we support a football team and we can't get happy when it wins, what the hell's the point in supporting it? Full stop, you know? Well done to those of you in the preview who worked out that we recorded that rather earlier. Look, it was the international break. We needed a break. Our families needed us to have a break. So we recorded that quite a bit earlier than what we normally record previews. And obviously the Amari'i Bell, Jacob Brown and Izzy Jones news broke after we recorded it. So it's not that we don't do research. It's just simply that for once during the international break, we got it out really, really early. We'll be back to normal when we preview the Leeds game, that's for sure. But obviously news did break that Jacob's out for the season. That's a blow. We kind of thought he would be injured, just basically based on what we saw after that Middlesbrough game when he went off. So not good that he's out for the season in light of the fact that the strikers aren't scoring at the minute. But much more positive with regards to Teeth Chong. Thankfully, the Amari'i Bell fears were just that, didn't surface. And we're hoping Izzy Jones isn't too bad. But Brown, he'll be missed.
Yeah, he will, because he was the one striker that had scored a couple of goals, albeit his last one came sort of a month ago. But he was providing impact off the bench and stuff. And yeah, there was a really interesting podcast, if anybody saw that. Not that we did it. He spoke to, I think it was the Stafford University or something like that, talking about his the way he's opened up to his teammates and stuff. And then Reece Burke did an interview on the Club Channel before the game and talked about a real bond and a chemistry that's grown now because everybody was low on confidence middle of the season. And there's sort of little insights here that something's happened, really. And we could all have our theories on it. And I know you've got yours as to the point that changed and why that's changed. But it is seeming to change. They look like a team again. They look like there's small elements of confidence there. As a little aside, I went and took my kids to go and watch Hook, the film from the early 90s. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I mean, if you ain't watched it, come on. Went and watched it in Luton. By the way, the side note to this as well, the Orange Picture Club are running cinema stuff at Luton Library Theatre, much, much cheaper than the cinema. You can get in for £4 tickets, really cheap popcorn. It's a cracking day out. Go and check it out online. This is where I saw it. I saw Hook. What an absolute banger of a film for starters. But there's a scene in Hook where Peter Pan is still old Robin Williams, doesn't quite yet believe he's Peter Pan. He sits down for dinner with the Lost Boys and he's really hungry and they start eating and there's nothing there. They're just using their imagination. Then halfway through the meal, it sort of clicks and suddenly there's loads of food everywhere. I just feel like we might have reached that Luton moment where the players are suddenly believing they can be Peter Pan again. And I hope that's true.
I've got to be honest, when I walked in the studio tonight, I wasn't expecting Luton Town to be compared to Peter Pan, but I like it. I see where we're going with that. It's good. It's we're not just football here, we're culture as well. And
hey, man, come on.
You know, we're expanding our horizons as much as we possibly can. Yeah, you are right. There is a football team forming in front of our very eyes. Absolutely. Of course, there are still people within that team that aren't giving us the statistical output that everyone desires in those positions. But in terms of work rate, in terms of fight's been a big thing for us on this podcast this season. We didn't see anywhere near enough of it. Well, until that game that you mentioned, or the Watford game would be the last time where we didn't see enough of it. Then we had that press conference, didn't we, ahead of Portsmouth, where I think there was a lot of attention on Matt. I said after the Watford game, the one thing we can't do is go down with a whimper because there'll be so much pressure on him next season. He had to get wins to convince fans that even if we go down, he's the man to lead us back up next season. And he came out with that saying or that line or that warning or whatever it was in that Portsmouth press conference where he basically called the players out in March for not running enough. Now they are running. They're doing absolutely everything. When they go forward, there's no trudging back when they lose the ball. They're all straight back. When we lose the ball or when we're in front and we are trying to hold on to something, you can now see there's a structure about us. That we're not being picked apart here, there and everywhere. We'll drop into a back five. The wing-backs will come alongside the centre-backs. 4 midfielders will then go in front of them, come and break us down. And 3 of the last 5 just haven't. And the last 2, they could still be playing now and they wouldn't have broken us down.
Yeah, I mean, considering how leaky the defence has been all season, to suddenly see that they're being that resolute, and what did Hull have, really? Sort of one cross come shot that never went anywhere near the goal, and that very last minute shot that was straight down the throat of Kaminsky, had to save it anyway. The teams aren't carving Luton open anymore, and this is with the back 5 that we don't like, but he's recognised that somewhere along the line that suits the players that they've got, but it's working a bit better now. So, I mean, there's I know that in training they focus more on small. They've put some small pitches in and stuff like that, and they're focusing on the smaller side, so they're not doing as much running in training. So it must be able to translate to the games. I mean, it's probably not the only thing, but there's a sort of little insight into it there that may be what's happening. And you know, when they signed Matt Bloomfield, we looked at his record and realised that Colchester and Wickham took about 2 months to get going, which we felt we didn't really have that at that time. And you can fall either way on that debate now, whether it's too little, too late. I understand it, but that's what happened there, and that seems to be what's happening now with Luton. And this is why I say that we should be sort of confident about where we are, because there does seem like a team forming. And if we can 1-0 our way to safety, I'm going to be absolutely bloody delighted with that. I'll be happy with it. But against Middlesbrough, they created enough chances to actually win the game and score. And there does seem like a change here. There does seem like it. And it's not just, I don't believe it's just this, and I did point it out, by the way, so I'm glad to point it out again. There's been 4 international breaks this season. Luton have come back from every single one of them, won that game and kept a clean sheet. So if we can just pretend the next 7 games are straight after international breaks, going to be absolutely golden. But I don't think it's just that. That will have helped. But there is something happening here. Whether it comes off in the end, we don't know. But right now it feels like it might.
Yeah, listen, those that think that Bloomfield came in too late, those minds will never be changed, and that's absolutely fine. But the actual deciding factor whether he comes in too late will be whether he keeps us up or not. If he keeps us up, yeah, he come in too late, but it don't matter because we've got out of mess. And even if he'd come in early enough, we're only going to be 15th or 16th under him. We're not going to be any higher than that. The top 12, for example, there's a little bit of a gap, isn't there? I think it might be 13th or 14th, and then down to QPR, who I think are 15th. There's something like a 4 or 5 point gap. We wouldn't have bridged that. So we would only have stayed up even if he'd come in earlier, but we would be a little bit more progressed.
A few less shredded nerves, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd have fingernails, but hey, you know, there's something about going to football matches where there's loads on them that make them all the more special when you get 1-0 wins like yesterday. We don't do dead rubbers very often at Luton. We don't do dead seasons. They generally go right down to the end when we are involved in something, and I'm absolutely convinced this will do as well. But, you know, ultimately, from where we were from where we were before Bloomfield uttered that saying in that press conference before Portsmouth to where we are now, the difference is stark. And yeah, okay, 3 of the opponents didn't turn up on the day, but Hull did yesterday. And that's why I'm more encouraged coming away from Hull than what I have been. Yeah, Portsmouth, any side should have beaten Portsmouth on that afternoon. Any side should have beaten Cardiff that night, and any side should have beaten Middlesbrough, and we're unlucky not to do it. But the big thing about this, Jimbo, is we all want our strikers to score. Of course we do. No one wants our strikers to score more than the 2 themselves. They're bloody desperate to score. You've only got to look at them now when they're missing chances. But if we only need to score 1 goal as a team to win a game of football or get a point, then it doesn't matter if it's a midfielder that scores. It doesn't matter if it's Mark McGuinness who scores or Christ or whoever it is who scores. We're going to get something from the game if someone scores. Whereas you go back 6-8 weeks, say Oxford, we scored 2 in that game and got Bob all for it. The look is now that when we keep 11 on the pitch, i.e. referencing the Burnley game, and okay, the Leeds game to come might be different in that regard as well, but against teams in and around us, the likelihood is if we score a goal, we're getting a result out of the game. And we haven't felt like that since we got promoted, really, or at least I haven't anyway.
For me, it's got a increasingly pungent whiff of if you can't win the game, don't lose it. And that is better than where we were, a hell of a lot better. There's some sort of glitch in the matrix because we've been going hope, despair, hope, despair. I've been talking about this a lot. Suddenly it's hope, a little bit of hope. Something's going right here. And you got to take the moment when it happens.
Yeah, you really have, and you've got to give full credit to the manager. As I said after the Watford game, I questioned whether he would get the wins. First of all, to keep us up, and secondly, to convince supporters whether he'd be the man to bring us back up if he took us down. Well, he's ticked that box, so we can forget that now. He is. He's when he said that about running, that had the potential to go 2 ways. Overpaid prima donnas would have been, who the f are you telling us that, and just down tools. Or they looked at it and they're like, do you know what? He's bloody right here. We need to get our arses in gear. And thankfully, they've gone down the latter route. So well done to Matt for that. Well done to Ref for recognising the formation, for getting Christ in there. There's so many things that he's done that have improved us. And we just look like that team that we looked like when Rob came with all of his fresh ideas. Now, we're not going to get promoted. Of course, we're not going to get promoted. But if we go on a similar run that we went on under Rob once he got everything sorted and firing, and of course, Rob had 4 weeks in the job before he played his first game, let's not forget, then we're going to get out of this danger. Might only get out of it in 21st, but hey, 21st is all we need to be this season. We'll worry about the rest of it in the summer and going on to next season. Could have been a lot easier yesterday, couldn't it? Poor old Elijah. I don't know what you got to do, mate. I really don't know what you got to do. Absolutely lovely move. Ball ends up with Clark on the edge of the box. Plays a wonderful reverse pass. The move from Elijah is actually really, really good. And Clark puts him in and he hits a much more convincing shot than the shot he hit against Middlesbrough. There was absolutely sod all that was convincing about that at all. He didn't look like he thought he was going to score. No one around the ground thought he was going to score. Whereas yesterday there was conviction behind that shot. He hit it with power, with pace across the goalkeeper so that if the goalkeeper had saved it, someone might have got to tap in like everyone gets told to do. It just hits the post and comes out. If he's on a run of scoring goals, that hits the post and goes in the back of the net. It's just his luck is so badly out. It hits the base of the post and pings off into a completely opposite direction.
It does, and we're all waiting for something to happen there. But I think everybody, obviously he's at the post, he's not scored, and there's still those doubts about him. But everybody look at the movement and the moment before he hits that. That's more the more confident Elijah. There's a turn, a spin, a look up, all within a fraction of a second, and then he knows what he's going to do straight across. So the goal might not have gone in, but I saw a flash there that there might be improvements there. I mean, this time it was Morris that probably should have done better with the chances, but listen, this own goal fella, somebody signed him up in the transfer window because he's having a blinder. Well,
he's on 2 own goals for us, isn't he? In that very goal, so Yeah, come and play for us. Play up front for us. Absolutely. Yeah, you referenced Morris chance. Lovely cross in from Alfie Doughty. Listen, we've done this set piece so often over the last 2 seasons. Morris drifts to the back post. They all move to the front post. He's left completely alone. And usually he goes back the way the ball comes from, doesn't he? When he's confident. This time he didn't. He went near post and just kind of come off the outside of his foot, didn't it? And went wide. You only had to look at his reaction to know that he knows he should have done better with that. And had we gone 1-0 up in that first half, I think it would have been a more comfortable afternoon, because you only have to look at their reaction when we did go 1-0 up. It was very, very bad. Their managers really criticised them for their reaction after they went 1-0 down. But the good thing was we were on the front foot. We were going forward. If you go to the last away game, we couldn't string 2 passes together. So we were much, much better here. Probably easier conditions. Pitch was really good. Sun was shining. 2 weeks off. We didn't have the Burnley game in our legs, which we did have at Cardiff, and all of this sort of thing. But we were creating chances, and that was very much the positive. Yeah, of course, the next step is to take them. We know that, but if they don't take them at the other end, then we'll be okay.
Yeah, but it's the same for a lot of teams down the bottom. I mean, off mic, you were talking about how Hull were very good for sort of 80% of their play. It's just that the 20% that they're not very good at is why they are where they are, which is goal scoring, I suppose. So it can happen, but there were still signs of Luton doing more than Hull in the final third. Jordan Clark, very lively. Liam Walsh, he's benefiting massively from the fact that this is the longest he's played for an absolute age, Liam Walsh, and it's showing. The midfield look really confident, look like they're forming a little partnership. You remember when Bloomfield came in and we saw a 3 there with Krause that was working, but now it's Asgard that seems to be working. So and Clark was responsible for the ball into Elijah, wasn't he? We've just discussed that. So there was enough there to suggest that they're probing and trying. There wasn't like there's no spark. It's just obviously it's been it's gonna tick into the 4th month since 2 of the strikers have scored, and everybody knows that's probably not going to be good enough unless you 1-0 it all the way and own goals happen and defenders score. I think they're probably going to have to start scoring, obviously, but right now we'll take it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, of course they're going to have to start scoring, but they're not necessarily going to have to start scoring in the volume that I expected to. I mean, with 10 games left, I was talking about maybe 18 goals needed to stay up. Do you know what? Our defence has improved that much. Maybe 10 goals does keep us up with 1-1 draws and 1-0 wins. We can't keep on stressing it enough. This is just a bang ordinary league, and if you're solid, you've got enough going for you in this league, and that's what we need to be over the next 7 games.
And well, solid was the key, wasn't it? Because you get that goal, 11 seconds after the restart, absolute killer. How many times has that happened to us? And it's just murdered the whole game, and did that to them. They never really looked like getting back into it. I mean, that we referenced the cross that was probably their best effort until the final second when the fella has a shot that was always going to be saved by Kaminsky. And teams aren't carving Luton open. They're not getting behind as much because Christ has got some pace. McGuinness stepping up. Cal Naismith's not even getting a look in, is he? So that is a really positive thing. And yeah, you've got to start from the base. And he recognised that and came in and has been working on that defence. You can see the work that's happened on the defence. You can see what's happening in attack now. It's just that final last bit. And obviously that is the hardest bit in football. But it's not like they're not trying and not working in a patterned way. Remember how many times this season we've gone, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they are trying to do. And now you can see what they're trying to do. So, I don't know. Maybe it's baby steps and maybe we need more than that. But right now, it's positive.
Yeah, we're closing in on the destination, aren't we? Everyone fixates on other teams. And of course you do. I was doing it on the way home yesterday. Every time TalkSport went to an update, someone at the bottom was beating someone at the top.
Who does Stoke think they are, by the way? What are they playing at?
I was thinking...
Did they not get handed the script for this?
I was thinking, every time the TalkSport guy piped up with a score, I was like, come on, mate. you're ruining a bloody good afternoon here. Sun's still shining and everything else. But
Cardiff, bloody hell, come on.
yeah, indeed. The one thing about Stoke, if QPR think they're safe, they'll slowly make their way down. Well, well done to you anyway, because you did get the Cardiff result right in amongst that podcast that we did. You gave them a point against Sheffield Wednesday. They got it. You got the Stoke one completely arse about face, but you got the Hull and the Oxford ones right. And I think they're the ones. I think Cardiff, Hull and Oxford, along with Derby, they're the ones. If Stoke do pull clear, then that's fine. Someone's going to pull clear, whoever it may be. But you got most of them right. So we're kind of on the right lines. You mentioned Mark McGuinness there and how Hull didn't really have many chances to score. How many times this season have I screamed blue murder down this microphone for a defender to chuck themselves in front of the football and not turn their back on it? Well, McGuinness, absolutely fantastic, because that block, I mean, Palmer's got a side foot in and he's so close that Kaminsky's not going to have a chance to save it because of the connection of the ball. McGuinness threw himself in front of it. Now, there are people who, if McGuinness still isn't your bag, who will say, well, he should have done because it was him who passed the ball straight out of play that led to the start of that move. Yeah, okay. People are going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. I make more than many. But the best ones rectify them. And that's what he did. He threw himself in front of that ball. We're not scoring many at the other end. But that felt like a goal at our end that we've saved. It almost felt like we gained a goal in that moment.
Yeah, probably because he's restricted them to so little. And it does kind of feel that, again, early stages, let's not count our chickens and all of that. But maybe there's flashes of the player that Luton thought that they're paying that money for. And, it's been a long time coming, but it's here now. Long may it continue.
Yep, indeed. Second half then. Chong comes on at half-time, doesn't he? We were all a little bit worried that Reece Burke had got injured again. I mean, you are always worried that Reece Burke gets injured again. Matt confirmed after the game, purely a plan, 45 minutes for Reece, 45 minutes for Chongi, and they went through with that plan, which was fine, absolutely fine. I mean, Chong wasn't a reason why we scored, unless his hair distracted one of the whole players or not, I don't know. Finally, that kickoff yielded dividends because we've booted it up to Morris, who it has to be said, he might not be scoring right now, but he's winning every bloody header all of a sudden. He really
It's a great stat, isn't it? That he's won and lost the most amount of aerial duels in the Championship, which is remarkable. It shows you sort of the influence that he had, or the battles that he's having, because he's on both ends of those stats. It's amazing.
And we're still convinced he's got a groin injury as well, which makes it all the more amazing. But he wins a flick on to Elijah. Another sign that Elijah's confidence is growing was the flick into Tello Asgard. Now, it was slightly too far in front of Tello Asgard for Asgard to get there. But that was a flick of a man who is kind of happy with where he is right now, minus the goal, because a lot of the times, someone out of confidence would have brought that down, maybe taken 2 or 3 touches and the move's gone, because it was one of those boom, 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 and hopefully Asgard's put it in the back of the net sort of moves. So he had to move it on quickly. And it was really, really good. It just so happened it was a yard or so in front of Asgard. As it turns out, it didn't matter because Louis Coyle was like, do you know what, mate? Have this in your face. Belted it into his centre-back's face. Flew in the corner. The goalie's like, for crying out loud. And we're all off in jubilant celebrations.
It does not matter how they go in, as long as they go in. Listen, in the Great Escape, Kazenga Luala scored from the moon, and it was a wonderful goal, and the scenes there were amazing. It doesn't matter how they go in. I could take one off somebody's face all day long. It went in, and it was enough, and it killed them, and there's confidence now. There's all of a sudden, there's all these words that we were worrying that weren't in existence. Confidence, teamwork, heart, passion, fight, luck. Now, adding that to the mix, and come on, that's good, isn't it?
Do you know what I really enjoyed yesterday? I like Hull as an away ground anyway. It's a nice ground. You've got to walk through a park to get to it. When the sun's shining, it's just it's nice. The away end's pretty decent. You can get a good atmosphere going. You can have a laugh with everyone that's around you. Some of the fans were having banter between the two sets of fans. The stewards are kind of relaxed and everything. There's so much, and the ticket prices. Cannot let this podcast go without mention for the ticket prices. 15 quid for adults in this division, which is absolute rip-off city. This division, £15 for adults. Fair play to you. I know that it was a big game. It was a lunchtime kickoff. They wanted a crowd and everything else. Do you know what? I don't care what the reasons are why they charge £15. They charge £15 for adults. More teams do that for these 12:30 kickoffs, and you'll get crowds like they got yesterday, which I think was 23,005, if my memory serves, of which 1,100-ish were Luton. So it had the desired effect. Well done, Hull.
Yeah, fair play to them. I mean, that's what you want as fans. I mean, that's across the board in football. I mean, the Germans do it great, don't they? And that's always the model you're looking at. Why not anyone else? But yeah, fair play to them. European city of culture as well, isn't it? In what, 5 years ago? No, it's probably a bit longer than that, wasn't it? But they must be doing all right for themselves.
Yeah, they are. That's for sure. Yeah. I'm not a fan of all these new stadiums, these new build stadiums. Some of them are concrete, soulless and horrible. Reading and Coventry being two prime examples. But this is actually one of the better ones. I don't know if it's because, it was built for their rugby team, maybe more than their football team. But yeah, hell of a lot of an improvement on Boothbury Park in terms of facilities, and sort of the atmosphere is pretty good as well. So yeah, well done. Yeah, I wasn't sat there thinking, oh my God, we're going to concede any minute. I really wasn't. And actually, we had the best two chances to go and extend our lead. A lovely little move that got, I think it was Millie Alley that got Asgard in, and to be fair to their defender who scored the own goal, he's thrown himself in front of it and blocked it. And the ball's gone out, well, it would have gone out for a corner, but Jong stopped it from going out and tried to recycle it and carry on. But Asgard's going to get some goals. There's a man who's on a high right now. He's gone away with Norway. He's got his first goal, first assist, first cap, done really, really well. I get the feeling over the next 7 games, he's going to make a telling contribution or two.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it. He should have had 3 Hatters goals. We all know that. He should have scored 2 against Middlesbrough. But yeah, to go and do that in an international, and really charming sort of couple of videos from Norway. Fair play to them. The manager saying that he's a revelation and stuff like that. And he does look like a proper player, just in the way he receives the ball. I think I've talked about this before. Just the way he receives the ball, his balance and his poise, looks like a proper player. And I'm surprised that nobody really looked at him before, because he was banging in goals for fun for Wigan. 12 from a midfield position is pretty phenomenal. They're not no great shakes, are they, Wigan? So yeah, I don't know why they didn't look at him, but Luton have got him now, and yeah, he's growing into that role. As I mentioned, the 3 that he's in now in that midfield 3 look very confident. Jordan Clark is sort of his best. Liam Walsh is really keeping the midfield ticking, and he's getting minutes under his belt, which he hadn't had before. Looks every bit the player that I guess they were hoping they were going to get, and he's not got another injury, which is great. And then Talo Asgard is doing the business there. So yeah, I think he will. I think he'll be an important player. And yeah, really, I mean, I hope that it all goes well this season. They're going to be fantastic next season as well.
Yeah, injury prevention for Liam Walsh is key. Obviously, we've lost Marvellous, we've lost Shandon. I'm hearing that they're back out on the grass, but not close enough that they're going to play any significant role between now and the end of the season. So keeping Walsh fit is going to be key. He always goes off after an hour, and it's every game. So I'm assuming that there's some sort of plan in place that give us an hour of everything that you've got, and then we'll worry about the last half an hour afterwards. Because he kind of been utilising both Lamine and Zach, hasn't he, at different times in that coming on for Liam Walsh. It's not necessarily one or the other. If we're not winning, it's usually Zach, and if we are winning, it's Lamine to kind of use his athletic power to see us home.
That's it. I think it just looks like they're being canny with the minutes they're getting and the job they need to be doing. And the players that are coming on aren't necessarily having to go after games to chase them, but they are coming on to see things out at the minute. That seems how it's going. They're doing a really good job. So, yeah, I think that is the way it's going to go. And you know, he rates Lamine Fana highly, but it's a young player, gone to a different country, been playing in Stockholm. 18 months ago, he was playing in the 5th division in Spain or something like that. So it's going to take a while to get up to speed. But while you've got Liam Walsh playing and ticking things along, it's just that he's very economical with the ball, and we hadn't seen that a lot we hadn't seen a lot of midfield, had we? Let's be honest. There was the neck ache, boom, 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 like a tennis game with no midfield in the middle. And now he's sort of dictating the play a bit more, and he can do that. He can pick a pass, and he looks confident with it. That's the thing. But it's all over. It's like spreading like wildfire across this team, confidence. And when you hadn't seen it for so long, it's why I get the rant at the beginning. It's why you say, look, enjoy that while it happens now. What happened in the past, it's in the past. We're in a 8-game end of season mini league and we've just won the first game. Come on.
Exactly. We will do the inquest over the whole season when we do the season review, but let's do everything we can to get us out of this mess. Because Jimbo doesn't want to be covering a League One team. I don't want to be watching a League One team. Most of you out there don't want to be watching League One football next season. You tell me all the time, and thanks to everyone again who came up to me yesterday and indeed at the Trust Strategy night on Thursday evening, telling me how much you enjoy the podcast and the good job that Jimbo and I are doing. We all want to be in the Championship, so let's club together, come together and stay in the Championship, and then we'll worry about the whys and the wherefores, which do still need to be addressed because we don't want a repeat of it, whatever happens. We'll worry about that when we know our fate for absolute certain.
But if you watched the last podcast, and you saw the John Steele piece that we put in, there was like great sort of rousing, tub thumping moment from him. We were both in the room. You were speaking on stage. We were both in the room when he was saying that, and it was like, yeah. I mean, it's simple stuff, isn't it? But when you've been in the mire for so long and disappointment after disappointment, and people putting their air out, and suddenly you get that, and it's so simple. Support your team, even when even when they're shocking, support them, give them that support. And yeah, I was all in for that. Great thing.
Sometimes when you're immersed in the negative bubble, which results do bring negativity as fan bases, of course they do. Sometimes an outsider with an interest, just to remind you of what you do it all for, is no bad thing. And, John was brilliant on the whole night. And for those that are asking, we will put that whole evening out on our YouTube channel as soon as we can get it all mocked up and chopped up and everything else. Been a really, really busy sort of week, to be fair. But it is coming. Don't worry. You're not going to miss out if you didn't miss out on the night. But, it's great that he still has enough passion to deliver that sort of talk. And yeah, it worked, because I thought the support yesterday was absolutely brilliant. We were outnumbered 20-1 near as damn it. But you heard Luton fans throughout, and the longer the game went and the closer we got to that victory, the louder the Luton fans got. And this reminded me of when Luton have been in trouble in the past. And I mean, real trouble. I'm not talking when we've been in sort of fighting for promotions and things like that, but when we've had to sort of dig in ourselves in the terraces, it reminded me a lot of that. So last season, when we had our backs against the wall, the -30 season particularly, there were shades of that, and all around this club, just slowly the gloom is starting to lift. Hey, beyond these darker clouds, there's a whole bright new horizon that we were reminded of by John Steele, as you'll see when that thing comes. The future is really, really good. But we look, and we should look at the here and now, because that's ultimately what we're paying our money to watch. But we shouldn't forget that once we can navigate these dark clouds, things are looking good, particularly if we can stay in the Championship. And another thing that's looking good, Jimbo, and he's proper put me in my place here, because I've been criticising him more than I wanted to over the last 6 weeks or so, is Thomas Kaminski. Now, I had to put Sky Go on and double check it was Thomas Kaminski at the other end. The sun was really, really bright. I knew it was Thomas Kaminski. I don't know what they did to him in the international break, if they put some jump leads on him or what they've done. He came for everything when we went 1-0 up yesterday, and I mean everything. And do you know what? He claimed everything, to the point where I'm sat in the car on the way home thinking, why the bloody hell has it taken 38 games for that to happen? Better late than never. But well done, Thomas, because it's clearly not natural. If it was natural, he'd be doing it all the time. But they brought on Matt Crooks around about 25 minutes to go for Kyle Joseph. Joseph, bang average height, really, more in there for pace and movement than height. But Crooks, a lot taller, 6'3"-ish, 6'4", and everything was going in the box. McGuinness was dealing with it in the main, but when the goalkeeper could come, and the thing is, when he catches it, all these goalkeepers get away with just falling flat on their face, don't they, and breaking another 20 or 30 seconds of the play up, which we haven't been able to do when he's been rooted to his goal line. Not only has someone got a tap in from 3 yards out, but when they miss it, it's coming straight back in 5 seconds later. it was really, really good to see Kaminski do that. He came racing out of his box once and headed a ball. He came racing out of his box once and chested it and booted it down the other end, which, okay, led, it didn't go anywhere and almost led to them getting in. But that's what I've wanted my goalkeeper to do all season long. And he finally come up trumps in a game where we really, really needed it. Because I wouldn't have wanted one of them crosses connecting with Crooks, because that could have been fatal. So, I'm always, whenever someone proves me wrong, I'm always more than happy to give him credit. And he was my man of the match yesterday, Kaminski. I thought he was brilliant second half.
It's just a calming influence that happens when the keeper does that. I mean, Shazy was great at that. Probably still is. It's not playing. Mark Tyler did that in abundance, just came and sorted things out. And it gives you a lot more confidence. The players that are playing in front of you get a lot more confidence. Those players aren't getting injured. It's not a constant churn of who's available anymore. That's helping. Little partnerships are forming. The emergence of Christ. All those things in a defensive sense are working and helping. We can see that with our own eyes. And then that's a sort of a little bit of a icing on the cake, really. Not necessarily the cherry at the moment, but so much better, isn't it, that when a keeper comes out and does that. And I don't know, it's going to, whether you can ever get to the bottom of this, because it's not a Kaminski thing, it's a team-wide thing. The confidence so low, and why and how and what were the reasons, and what are the change? Maybe it's something intangible that we'll never know, or they'll never sort of really tell us. But it is happening. It's happening, and enjoy it now. Hope it continues, because when you mentioned the noise that you boys were making, and I think, I've watched decades enough of it. You boys give it when you think you're getting it, regardless of whether you're playing like Brazil 1970 or anyone. But it's the effort and the fight, isn't it? And that's the reciprocal nature of it. And it's the baseline. You've got to do that. But it's then given Luton the platform to now give us this hope that we're talking of.
And it was reciprocated. I mean, there's loads of you out there that feel the same way about Kaminski as what I've felt, because I know it, because I sit in with all of you at away games at least, and many of you at home games. We all feel the anxiety that he doesn't come off of the line, and we all want him to do that more. And when he did it yesterday, Thomas Kaminski was, loud and louder and louder and louder. And when they came forward, the players were trying to push Kaminski forward to get even more of the adulation. And he's kind of shy and retiring in that regard, isn't he? And he kind of stays at the back until the end when they've all gone, and then he gets his kind of limelight. But yeah, you're right. When people fight, they show character, they show determination, they dig in, everything that Lutonians are about, then that's when we get right behind them. And you know what? By Kaminski coming out for these crosses, it had exactly the effect that it should have, not just on him catching the ball all the time, but all of a sudden when their wingers were getting it, they were trying to be too precise and overhitting them. Or in the case of Gelhardt, who was taking all of these corners, wasn't even clearing the first man all of a sudden.
They were gloriously rubbish.
I mean, there was one in injury time, deep in injury time, where you're thinking, oh, fuck, they're going to throw the kitchen sink in here. He passed it to the guy at the front post, which I think at the time was Millie Alley, down the other end of the pitch. I couldn't really tell exactly which one it was. He passed it to him. I'm like, which kind of weird world have I walked into here, sort of thing. But this is the thing, isn't it? When the goalkeeper's stuck on his line, them corners are going right under the crossbar because teams are sensing that they're going to get a cheap and an easy header. When the goalkeeper's coming for these crosses, suddenly they've got to get further and further, or fancier and fancier. And they either miss-hit them, in the case of that one I'm talking about, or over-hit them. And there were a couple that whizzed straight out of play the other side as well. Just little things like that. It's only a small thing. It's a thing that as a football fan we take for granted that a professional footballer can and should do. But when it happens and you see it, having had 38 games where it's not been happening, all of these 1%, they suddenly add up into a huge kind of overall percentage, which is why over a cumulative thing, we've picked up 3 wins and a draw in 5 games.
Yeah, well, to go back to the John Still thing again, what was he saying? Matches are won by inches, and these little things work. They work for Luton's defence, as I've just said, and as you've just said, it's sort of a dispiriting effect on the other team if you're lumping balls into the box and suddenly there's a big gloved hand coming out, whether to grab it or punch it miles away, then it's like, oh, this is the best we've got, and it's just getting repelled. It's going to have a psychological effect both ways. And whether that's only fractional, they are the marginal gains that we're talking about. They're the marginal gains to win titles. They're the marginal gains to get form, to stay away from a relegation zone. And suddenly we've got form. Another one to add into the mix, isn't it? Words that we weren't talking about before.
Yeah, exactly. 10 points from 5 games, 10 points from the next 5 games, and the job's pretty much done. That's all we've got. Got to just maintain these levels now. And if there's improvement to come, then happy days. And I think there will be, because we are showing improvement in different little portions with each game, because I think Matt's alluded to it in press conferences, and maybe people out there don't kind of know fully what he says because the press conferences go behind the paywall, and obviously you guys report it, but you'll report on the more headline words first, and they're quite close to games these days as well, aren't they? So, but he said in the lead up to this one, we've been working so hard with our defensive structure that the attacking bit probably has kind of not been ignored, because that would be negligent, but there's only so many hours in a day. Certainly in the Championship, where you're playing, coming back, recovering, doing a little bit of training, then doing the cycle all over again. So maybe the attacking play has kind of been not given as much focus as what it will be in a pre-season over 3 months sort of thing.
Well, he did say, actually, that, because I asked him about this, he said, no, we are working on both, but not that he said this to me, but you see from your own eyes that if a team is shipping goals like you wouldn't believe, like Plymouth are, and Luton have, you've still got one of the worst defensive records, but not recently. You ship that many goals and it puts so much pressure on everyone else to score the goals. And if they're not, then that's trouble. And we are in that situation because of those two facts. The ruthlessness in both boxes, which is constantly talked about by everyone, because that is where the matches is won and lost. But when the defensive improvements are that much that you can go anywhere and get one goal, and that could be enough for a victory, maybe a point, it's far more, it feels more confidence building than this. Although when it works, the gung-ho attitude of we're going to score more than you is great, but when you're not, you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. Then the final whistle finally goes. I think he played 6.5 minutes of 5 minutes of injury time. Not that they were ever going to score, but yeah, they're a tidy side hole. If you think back to the home game, it was very much similar. You know, Hull had all the play then, all the chances then. They didn't have the chances yesterday, but that Pedro missed all the chances, didn't they? We really had one chance with McGuinness from the set piece and took it, and it was kind of like that. But do you know what? That's absolutely fine. But the one thing where you can tell that belief is starting to build in this team, not just confidence, is when they come over after the game now. They're coming over with a real sort of celebration, like we're all in this as one kind of thing. Whereas, you know, when we were in the tough times of this season, it was dribs and drabs and head down, and, you know, because they knew they were going to take abuse. And as we mentioned at the times that they were doing it, quite rightly so on certain occasions, because the performance that they put in wasn't acceptable enough. But now,
well, that seems to have changed, and I noticed this particularly because I do video the bit at the end of the game so we can put it on any quotes packages we use. That changed quite visibly after the Portsmouth one. And yeah, you won a game, it's football, so why not? But there was a lot more hugging and bantering and smiles and stuff. And there may be only small things, and you may think, oh, because I won a game, but we weren't seeing those things before. And it may be a mystery as to why that ever was not there. But Luton, certainly for the last 10 years, have been built off the back of a great team spirit, hasn't it? And we were wondering where that had gone. Maybe that's coming back as well now. Looks like it.
It does. It really does, yeah. Yeah, everyone involved deserved much credit. Are we the finished article? Good grief, no. Not even close. If you're putting us into 100% package, we're probably not even at 50% yet. We're probably somewhere hovering around the 40% mark. 40% will be good enough to stay up in this division. I'm absolutely convinced of it. There is some dross in this league. We've seen it with our own eyes in the last 5 games ourselves. But do you know what? You look at that league table now. done half look a lot better than it in just one game than it did in the international break. Now, we did the podcast, obviously, where we cracked all the numbers and everything, and we think that the target that we need isn't as high as people were suggesting. Well, you look at the table now, and you can really see that being the case. 2 points up to Cardiff, who are fourth from bottom. Of course, Derby have got the game in hand against Preston on Wednesday night, and let's say Preston carry on for at least the next few weeks, because they play a few of the teams in and around us. But whatever happens in that game, there's a way out of this now. And again, you only have to go back 5 games, and we couldn't see it.
Well, exactly that. And this is why you have to take these moments and celebrate them, but recognise where there's stuff to build on, which is where the confidence comes. I'm not saying you're going to go to Leeds or Leeds are going to come to Luton and it's all going to be tickety-boo, because they're still a great side, regardless. But there are enough fixtures against the other teams that are more eminently winnable. And hey, if we get something against Leeds, happy days. It might turbocharge the way we're feeling now, but let's not count our chickens. But there's enough here in this running, enough to go after is the phrase that Bloomfield uses at the moment. What they're going after to suggest that it's possible. It is.
Oh, it's definitely possible. Yeah, listen. First Great Escape reference, you go back to that Great Escape, we took an absolute toweling against Reading and we still stayed up. So, you don't have to get points from every game. When you're in the games, you've got to maximise the points that you get. There'll be a time in these last 7 that we're outplayed. There will, because the schedule is rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat, and someone's going to have the better end of it Tuesday night through to Saturday, whereas we play these kind of things, or 12:30 kickoffs. A few extra hours. It all adds up at this stage of the season. We'll be outplayed somewhere along the line of that, I'm absolutely sure. But we'll also outplay 1 or 2 along the way as well. And, as long as we can keep our defensive structure and discipline's probably the word we've lacked on this podcast, actually, isn't it? That's what it is. It's not diving in. When the ball's in our box now, there's no panicking or anything like that. When it's on the edge of our box, there's still the occasional whack it as far away as we can, particularly when we're ahead, and that's fine because you want it as far away. But there's also a little bit of, can we play it out wide and get ourselves up the pitch and use Asgard and into Morris's chest and things like that. So even that's we're starting to be comfortable under pressure, whereas first half of the season when we were under pressure, it's in the back of our net. There was just no resistance to pressure, was there?
Yeah, it is almost a. I mean, you could probably sit down and analyse it if you went through the video packages, and I'm sure somebody could. But just on the vibe of games, and I know that's a bit woo-woo, but the vibe of games always felt like, in that part of the season you were talking about, this is going to go wrong. Any minute it's going to go wrong. You watch any minute. And then against Hull, even though that last minute shot when he sidestepped, I thought, oh, there's a chance here. Other than that, I wasn't getting that feeling. And it is the way people watch football is a feeling-based game, and I understand that. That's where your reaction to everything comes from. It's a feelings-based game. The feeling feels different.
It really does, yeah. I mean, you talk about feelings. I'm looking forward to going to football games again. I spoke openly. I can't even remember when it was because they all merged into one, but I spoke openly about not particularly getting enthused about going to games, but you've got season tickets, so you go. I've also spoken about people who've told me that they're not sure if they want to go to the next game, and that's what as a fan base we were thinking. Now,
what are they saying now?
Well, now when you go onto the concourses and you're waiting to go to the toilet or everything before you're out, there's a smile, there's a laughter, there's like everyone's bouncing, everyone's like, oh, it's a shame there ain't a Tuesday night game now. We could really do with building on this, and everyone's just so much happier, and we're all appreciative that we're not watching Brazil 1970 or peak Barcelona. Of course we're not. We know that we're second from bottom, but the criteria and the characteristics that we crave, we're seeing, and we're happy with that. Yeah, we want to see a whole lot more. Crikey, if you win 9-0, you want to win 10-0. That's a football fan thing, isn't it? None of us are stupid with that. None of us are necessarily sitting there thinking, bloody hell, that was really entertaining. But as fans, when you go to these games, and I said it earlier in the podcast, particularly these games that have got proper significant meaning, you feel like you're invested in it, don't you? And the feeling when you come out on top is so good, especially when it's a lunchtime game and the sun's still shining and it's a really, really nice day, and you're going out into the wide blue world again with your smiles and your shoulders up. Exactly that, and the day doesn't feel like it drags. The journey home's nowhere near as long. The McCoys taste even sweeter. Everything after games like yesterday, where, let's be fair, that was the perfect away performance yesterday. Okay, if we'd have scored it would have been even more perfect. But 1-0 away from home, where you get your goal and you defend your box for everything you've got. That's what it's all about as a football fan. We loved it, mate. Loads of people after the game was jovial with me, was happy. And these are the same people that I saw, the very same people that I saw after Blackburn, for example. That was one of the real doom and gloom ones, where we just offered, after Bristol City, where we just offered absolutely nothing and you're kind of questioning your life choices. Now you're like, why have I got to wait 7 days for the next one?
And this, I think, sometimes is the difference between being in the ground and sometimes watching it on the telly. And I'm not criticising anyone that has to watch it on the telly, or you haven't got a ticket. Hell, at home, you can only get 11,000 and change in there. And obviously that will change with Power Court. The more people can go in and watch it. But the thing that you miss from televised football is the feeling you get from the stands and how it's going, because it's an infectious thing that goes around a group of people that you almost don't have to talk about. It's just a feeling thing, a vibe that happens, and you can pick up on that and get that. And so it's no surprise to me that the people were like that. I mean, wins do it as well. And if you want to be, basic about it, of course, wins are going to get you up and positive about it. But it's the building blocks that go towards whatever the result is also give you that feeling. And I think that that's probably what you're seeing at the moment, because you're seeing a team that's fighting for it. And now hitting this form at this time when everything else has gone wrong, it seems like, bloody hell, that's a breakthrough.
Yeah, you're so right, because obviously we had a season and a bit COVID where we were all watching on television or laptops or however it was that we consumed our football in that COVID period. And I have to research everything about the COVID season because you just don't remember it. They're just another game when you watch it on television, or at least it is to me. It's, although I've got a deeply invested interest in Luton, watching Luton versus Reading on my laptop is no different to watching Man City versus Newcastle on my laptop. Ultimately, it's still 22 men kicking a ball around and I can't influence it. But when you're at a game, you feel that anxiety, that tension, that joy, that relief, every single emotion that you feel in the stands. And when you're in a relegation battle, you probably feel it tenfold. It doesn't actually feel as much when you're in a promotion battle, because in the back of your head, there's always next season. Well, there isn't in a relegation battle. Well, there is, but it's not, it's in the level below, which no one wants. And it's kind of meaning a lot more. When Jordan Clark bangs one in the top corner at Cardiff out of absolutely nowhere, the feeling and the celebrations are just that 5% extra. When the full-time whistle goes at Hull and you've won 1-0 in an absolutely massive game, it's like you've won the league in terms of the jubilation and the celebration of it. And that's what I've missed the most this season. You come away from an away game and you just had the same feeling as the one before, because they've all been as crap as each other. In the odd case or two, they've been even worse than the rest of them, but they've all been a mundane nothingness. Now you're coming away and you'll remember that 1-0 win at Hull by the start of next season. But if we stay up, you probably won't remember the 3-1 defeat at Plymouth, really. It's just, that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was there in the COVID season because I'm obviously writing. There were socially distanced allowed the journalists in, and I was there for those games, and even the last one against Blackburn when you needed that result to go your way, and and he was there, and you just didn't. You got it with the goals. You're like, yes, something's happening, and then at the end when there was that tension and and all the players knew that it had been done then at the final whistle, and Nathan Jones and Mick Harford hugging and stuff like that. And it was like, can you imagine the limbs that would have happened if people were in there? It was so different. They're so different. The feeling was great, and I'm sure everybody in living rooms around the town, well, around the world now, Canada and Scandinavia, and all the people that have Luton Town supporters groups around the world. You know, you watch it where you can, don't you? But the difference is quite stark when there's people in there to enjoy it with. And I didn't get that. I mean, after that great escape, you just pulled that off. The players were all around on the pitch, all having a beer and stuff like that. And it should have been, and I know the club won't condone this, should have been everybody piling onto that pitch and going absolutely bonkers in the best possible way. And it didn't happen. But that's then. This is now, and the feeling is starting to improve.
The main thing is the Great Escape is on. My word, it is on. 2 points to Cardiff, 3, let's call it 3, because the goal difference is still very much in their favour. So by next Saturday, we could be out of the relegation zone for the first time in, I haven't even gone back to check it so far, but certainly the first time, probably since Matt came to the fore, or very early in his days as manager, wasn't it? I think we were sort of 15th, 16th or so when he arrived, wasn't we? And went on that terrible one. But it's been a while. That's the thing I'm trying to say. And we could be out of the bottom 3 by next Saturday, but as long as we're out of it by May the 3rd, that's all that matters. But yeah, got to be honest, Jimbo, I really enjoyed yesterday. It wasn't the greatest football game I've ever watched in my life. Of course it wasn't. I don't expect it to be in the situation that we're in, but it was a hell of a lot more enjoyable than many I've watched this season.
And that's it. You just take it where the joys where you can get it. It was so, well, when I first started writing about Luton, they were in the Championship, and then it went bad. It went real bad real quick. 3 seasons in a row, back into the conference. I mean, I was checking to see if I'd walked under ladders and stuff back then. 5 years in the conference. And you're like, what the hell's going on here? But then ever since, it's been amazing. And you get all the feeling of that, and then you get to this season and almost don't know how to deal with it. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, isn't there? And that is, you've got to take that away and try and build on that.
Light at the end of the tunnel, and it's light that's shining brighter and brighter and brighter. It's not quite as bright as we want it to be, but hey, we'll get to it. That is for sure, playing the way that we are. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Matt Bloomfield, to be honest. I've just spent an hour lauding everything that he's doing as the reason for our turnaround, but really it's just reverse psychology for the win, isn't it?
Come on. People are repeating it. They're coming up to this fella. They're telling them about it. It's working. It's the magic dust that's being sprinkled over this whole shenanigans.
Who'd have thought we didn't need a manager, we just needed a catchphrase, eh? That's all it was. Can't believe it. No. Fair play to you. It's working. And I'm gaining points on you in the process. So
yada, yada, yada. Don't care.
More than happy with that. Talking of gaining points, 4 correct scores from you guys in the when you gave your scores in the preview. Nick White 7930, Nick Evans 7594, Twats LTFC, who's high up on the leaderboard. And once again, Claire Clark. I mean, I don't know if you're psychic, Claire, but
can you tell me the lottery numbers?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's have those lottery numbers. Another 3 points to you as well. I'll mention, as I'm in a good mood, Luton Town 1885, I'll mention you put 4 scores down, one of which was 1-0. Hey, look, we're happy. You get a mention. 1 score in future, though, please. But yeah, all of you got 3 points. All 4 of you, sorry, got 3 points. Lots of others went for a Luton win. They weren't believing in all this reverse psychology nonsense. One person has quoted it on the YouTube comments, though, to be fair. So you are getting through to more and more slowly and surely.
Rome wasn't built in a day, but they're all catching on. And, it will be like the Pied Piper. They're all going to follow to this tune. Reverse psychology for the win, people.
Never had Jimbo down as a shepherd. The 4 of you have got 3 points, and if you're high up on the leaderboard, well, the top 5 is just about to appear on screen with just 7 games to go. As you'll see, Claire's got a bit of a lead, but we're not all done and dusted yet. much like in keeping with our relegation battle.
Yeah, and isn't it a joy just to be saying that? Come on, after the ball we've been going through, it's not done. We're not out of it. We're not saying that, but there's a chance. You know?
Well, exactly.
Somebody dig out that Dumb and Dumber gif about if there's a chance, because that's where we are.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think one of the reasons why people appreciate this podcast is because we live in the present, and when we don't see something happening and then we do, we're more than happy to recognise it in much the same way of the other way. If we do see something and it's gone, then we'll reference that as well. We're not happy clappers, but at the same time, we're not doom and gloom mongers. We'll just see it how we say it, how we see it. And if we see something good, we'll say it. And we did see something good yesterday, and we are seeing shoots of life. And if you want the shoots to jump straight into the beanstalk in 5 minutes, well, it's not going to happen. We've got to be realistic. But as long as we get there slowly but surely, 21st is the aim, and we could be 21st next Saturday.
I mean, you speak for yourself. I happy clap the hell out of that.
Oh, no, I do. Yeah, I have not felt as high coming away from an away game in Yonge. Even that Cardiff game, I referenced it, didn't I? We won the game, but Jesus, that was a long old night. That was yesterday flew past. It was, it's good. Maybe it's something about Hull. Maybe it's the fact that I actually made a weekend of it, which I don't normally do, but this 12:30 kickoff nonsense, long way away, you kind of got to do it. Maybe it was the fact that I won a few quid at the races on the way up on Friday night as well. Whatever it is.
Don't decry the 12:30 kickoff nonsense. The next podcast,
we're
talking about that.
We are going to be going large on that in the next podcast. Yep, absolutely. Thanks to everyone for all of your comments. Yeah, loads of you came up to me at the Trust Strategy Night, and thanks to everyone who came to that on Thursday night. We hope that you got everything out of that session that we did from you, and really appreciate your thoughts and your insights. And to everyone again who came up to me yesterday at the game, really do appreciate hearing how much you like the podcast, because ultimately, Jimbo, it's for the watchers and the listeners that we do this for.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's always nice to hear. I've had quite a few chats actually, just walking to games and stuff, which is quite nice to. People do double takes, and I sort of go, "Oh, what they see now," but it's always been quite positive.
Where I'm concerned, they do double takes. Is he really as ugly as he looks on that camera screen? Sorry,
Yes.
folks. Yes, I am, and I make no secret of it. So there we go. Thanks for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. They're going to come thick and fast over the last 5 weeks of the season. We've got so much to discuss. We're hopefully going to bring someone in from the hierarchy to sort of help us navigate all of this. Spoiler alert, we are going to get to the area of the season where we know our fate before we start worrying about all the off-field stuff. We're going to concentrate on the on-field stuff initially, and we've got Easter coming up as well. So do subscribe if you can do. It's only a click of a button, and you'll get notified exactly when each podcast drops so that you don't miss any of our content. And it's free. And it is free, absolutely. Thanks to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, from Jimbo and myself, we are right back in this now, town. Come on, you atters.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton